So yeah, basically, we want to create something that looks like a natural forest, is very productive and self-sustained, self-sustainable, and we want to create it out of this. So this is my situation. But before I skip to the main topic, I would like to give you some background. So this is the central Poland fragmentation of land. As you can see, very narrow strips of land. This is a river called Policulture, and I would like you to notice this site and this piece of woodland here. So this is what it looks like today. As you can see, there is a bare ground, nothing covers it. There is nothing growing during the winter, protecting the soil from erosion. And in the background, you can see the river. So every kind of synthetic fertilizer that is used on the field or some chemical pesticides are washed away and are poisoning the river. At the other hand, this is the forest that I was trying to show you. As you can see, this is a monoculture pine forest. And if you look closer at the background, you can see fallen trees. This is what is happening now in case of climate change. The trees aren't sufficient. They are sick. They are dying because of fungal disease. And when the strong wind strikes the forest, they just fall down. So the monoculture approach is not the answer. This is my place, my farm. It's a permaculture settlement, around 15 hectares of land in one piece. So we try to show our neighbors that you can integrate land and that you can work with the land with different approach. We try to share our experience and our experiments that we conduct around our farm. This is what you can see in the summer after rain. This is our polyculture that we supply other plants that will biodiversify and that will make it richer and more productive. So once we've established the main perennial polyculture using native trees, then we add some fruit trees, old varieties of shrubs, and other plants that will make it even more productive. And this is how it looks now in the winter time. So unfortunately, this year we didn't have any snow. The temperatures also oscillate around 0 degrees Celsius. So this is not a very typical winter for this region. And this is very concerning because everything is changing. There is not enough water. We are in a drought situation. So this is very serious change in conditions that we need to adapt for. We conduct a lot of workshops around our farm, and the main topic that we teach now is how do we get access to water. We are near the river, so it is easier for us to get access to the water, but we need to find ways to sustainably direct the water where it's needed the most. So we use water rams I've devised this river pump that doesn't need any electricity to run, and it uses only the flow of the water in the river to support the pumping system. So this is the main topic that we discussed during the workshops. How do we get access to water? How do we prevent droughts? This is our other site. This is the place where we established Polish Permaculture Research Institute site. As you can see, the division of the land is even worse. So we figured that this would be the best place to test our idea. For nearly 30 years, it was a monoculture approach, growing only triticale year after year in the same place. So you can imagine that the depletion of soil, the soil erosion is very high, very dangerous for the coming events and for the changes of climate, for example. This is our site. We've got a very narrow field. It's only 12.5 meters across and very long, 480 meters long. So it gives you, when you multiply this by this, it gives you 6,000 square meters of land. And on our right side, we've got a neighbor that still grows triticale after 40 some years of the same practice. So as you can see, this is the monocultural approach, and this is our approach. We left the field. We harvested what was growing there after we bought it, and we left it for a couple of years to rest, to let nature do its own regeneration. So as you can see at the background, there are some new trees that appeared after some time, and the whole ground cover is mainly grasses. After 3 years of letting it go to the natural state, we've collected some soil samples. We've measured carbon and organic matter content so that we could have the background before we started our experiment. And this is what is our idea. So this is the field. It's 12.5 meters wide. We left on the right side and the left side, we left strips of land that was covered with mulch, and we planted some trees, different kinds of fruit trees and supporting trees, trees that can access to nitrogen from the air and release it in the soil. The next phase was to establish a lower shrub layer. These shrubs are also fruit shrubs and supporting shrubs that will incorporate organic matter into the soil. We've started with our own seedlings produced from seeds in our nursery, and we also produce trees from cuttings. These are poplars cuttings that will produce a lot of biomass, a lot of wood chips that will be recirculated, and we will use it as a ground cover to support the growth of other trees, other more productive trees. We've also took some natural occurring birch trees and replanted it alongside the borders of our field. And during that process, we also collected some cuttings from old varieties of fruit trees. and we grafted the fruit trees on wild rootstocks of pear trees, apple trees, cherry trees, every wild varieties that we can find around our place. We dig it up and replant them on the field, along the sides of the field, and graft it with more productive fruit varieties. As you can see on this slide, this is a graft union, and we produce our own material for creating a very diverse polyculture. This is how it looks after a couple of years. The trees are growing very strong because they are very healthy, and they bloom very nicely, attracting beneficial insects and pollinatory insects. And here is the process of planting the trees. After they are grafted, we plant them, digging a rectangular hole in the ground, putting some nice compost, inoculating the soil with different kinds of beneficial microorganisms. We create some earthworks around the trees that will help to store the water and concentrate all the bits of water near the roots of the young trees. Then we cover it with cardboard to prevent the growth of unnecessary weeds around the trees. And we cover it with a lot of straw or hay mulch, and also add some organic amendments, like, for example, rock dust. And then we cover it with wood chips, because wood chips act as sponge. During the wet season, when we have rainy season, wood chips store a lot of moisture, as you can see on this photo, and this helps to grow the trees better. After we plant the trees, we also spread some seeds of nitrogen-fixing annuals and wild grasses and herbs. So we create naturally occurring polyculture using local plant varieties. As you can see, once again, during the wet periods, all the grasses collect water, those tiny drops of water, and they are going straight into the soil, helping to prevent drought. So the trees grow quite nice. They grow. These are photos taken after 3 years of the growth of the trees. We check every season. We check the root structure, and we noticed that after 4 years, we've established quite good condition of mycorrhizal fungi that support the growth of roots and the growth of the trees. But as you can see, the process of growing and placing the trees is quite slow. So how can we manage to get an income during the 5-year period of time when the trees do not produce any fruit, any yield? And of course, there are other possibilities. And we thought that we could incorporate chickens. So after you plant young trees, you protect the trees from the chickens, because they are very expandable. They can destroy the young seedlings. So we use some protection. As you can see, they like to spread around. They like to perch the trees so they can damage the young plants. So we've Googled some ideas on how to protect the trees, and the best idea that we come up was to use John Saskowicz chicken tractors. We've modified them to suit our purpose, and that is the way that we can incorporate chickens onto the pasture without destroying the trees. And every day the chicken tractor is moved to new fresh green grass. The chickens get access to whatever they need, fresh, organic, green fodder. They like to dig in the soil looking for any pests, and they will gradually eat their way through the pasture, leaving their manure behind, and fertilize the soil. So this is what is that we use. We don't want to use fossil fuel and mechanical equipment. We would rather use birds to diversify what we can plant after they pass on the pasture. So making some calculations, we were able to run 3 batches during the season of meat birds, and after the first chicken tractor pass on, they are followed by egg mobiles, and we keep our laying hens about 2 weeks on the pasture, and after 2 weeks the ground is nearly weed free. There is no ground cover left. There are no weeds, no grasses left behind. So we move the laying hens after the pasture poultry, and then we can check what the soil structure is. So this is our neighbor's soil, and as you can see, after what we've done with chickens, this is our soil. Much darker, much richer in organic matter, and aerated. So after the chickens pass away, then we can put other plants. So we established some vegetable gardens that follow the chicken tractors, and that can produce quite large amount of vegetables that we can sell via CSA model, for example. And during the first season after planting young trees, we get an income from this kind of system. So we can produce meat, we can produce eggs, and we can produce vegetables. Everything happening on the one piece of land that is fertilized, aerated, and we provide a lot of organic matter, as you can see. This supports the biodiversity. We've got beneficial insects that help us with pests. We've got some wildlife that prevents the rodents to spread too much, and we support the wildlife, so it supports us. So this is what we get from the system, using chickens, integrating them with perennial and annual polycultures that are orchestrated around the field, very narrow field, so we can be much more productive than our neighbors using monocultural approach. So this is the difference. On the right hand, polyculture; on the left hand, monoculture. Polyculture can be 5 times more productive than monoculture, and it takes 10 times less input to support the quite large variety of produce, meat, vegetables, eggs. We think that we can even incorporate cows and produce milk. So this is what we are going to do during next season of our experiments. Yes, so this is it. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, please. Now is the time.
Thank you very much, Łukasz. Really a very fascinating idea, and like to me, the main question, why not all people from villages just apply this system if it's that simple? So Paul gave the comment that this is like, as you told, or it's his comment, I don't know, that it's 5 times more productive and 10 times less time consuming. So is it true in your situation?
Yes, we ask ourselves the same question. What we can see is that our neighbors, they are very, how to say it, insecure about what we are doing. They observe us, but they don't really believe that it will work on their fields. And yeah, but we try to convince them. We ask them to visit our place. We show them around, and we try to convince them that this is the better way to operate on the land using the polycultures.
Thank you. And we have a question from Alfred. So if you can unmute and talk.
So, hi, my name is Alfred, and thanks for the nice presentation, Łukasz. Yeah, it's a very nice, great work. My questions are, first, the question of legality. Like, do you have problem in Poland with the land use? Like, because in Hungary, if we want to establish, for example, on 1 hectare, a mixture of different land use, like arable and forestry, and so basically the agroforestry systems is not really legal in Hungary, even though the Europeans suffer. It's still not very legal here. Like, you can run into problems with the authorities. So this, I mean, if you do it on large scale, like you do. So that's my first question. The other question is that was really impressive how you planted the trees. My question is that I saw you showed that you use quite a lot of wood shapes at the end, and my question is, do you have problem with the nitrogen extraction, like because of the pentothane effect, like the microbes when there are too much carbon and not enough nitrogen, then it can happen that they extract the nitrogen. And that could be a problem maybe for the trees. And the final question is that for the chicken, do you like what is the percentage of the feed stuff that they can cover from the pasture? So do you have to give them concentrated feed like grains or whatever? That was it.
Okay, thank you for the questions. About the legality of our operation. In Poland, it is legal to put perennial polycultures on land that is poor quality, because many times in similar situations, other farmers, they resign to produce, for example, vegetables or grains on the weakest parts of their land, and they put monoculture trees. They plant monoculture trees over there. So instead doing this, we try to regenerate the soil using the polyculture systems combined with animal systems. So we want to integrate animals into the polyculture systems. And this is also the answer to your second question about nitrogen deficiency. It is very important not to mix wood chips with the soil. We just put it on top as a covering layer, so it doesn't suck the nitrogen from the soil. And as well, we also put a lot of supporting trees. The trees are interconnected. So we plant, for example, apple trees and Karagana bush, Siberian pea, and then pear tree, for example. So we interconnect the productive trees with the trees that can take up the nitrogen from the air and put it through their roots into the soil. And every tree that we plant is supported with mycorrhizal fungi that we also incorporate into the soil before planting. And of course, in very poor soil condition, there could be nitrogen deficiencies, but that is what the chickens do. They release a lot of nitrogen into the soil, and all the fungi that we re-established on the field will actively look for the nitrogen sources and then take the nitrogen and balance the deficiencies in the soil. So you don't need to think, calculating the precise amount of nitrogen that you put into the soil, because the chickens do it for you, and the rest is taken up by fungi that re-establish themselves when they've got trees to support. Because fungi, they always live in symbiosis with tree roots. So this is the mechanisms that help us to establish a very good quality of microorganisms in the soil. And the third question, I don't remember. Okay, the feed. How much do we need to support our chickens? Yes, we, especially laying hens, we support it with kitchen scraps. So I think that it is about 30–40% of the feed that we need to support, and 60–70% of the feed is supported by the polyculture and annuals on the field. So we need to put very small amount input to support the chickens.
Thank you very much, Łukasz.